Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Hare Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopi Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchan Gorangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chev Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. बोलो श्री राधे कृष्ण भगवान की जय। ओ श्रीमद् भागवतम
जय। हरे कृष्णा एवरीवन।
हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा नीतू।
हरे कृष्णा भैया।
कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा निशा।
हरे कृष्णा एवरीवन।
हेलो तरुण। कृष्णा।
हेलो। हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा। हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा सचिन। कृष्णा अजय। हरे कृष्णा। ऑलराइट, सो कल हम लोगों ने 26th चैप्टर पूरा किया, क्या 26वां अध्याय of Canto 3. Canto 3, the status quo. So we completed 26th chapter, and that was about, what was it about? Fundamentals of the material nature. Yeah, Prakriti. What are the fundamentals? Means how, what are the elements by which the material nature has been built, and how the whole thing comes in existence. Right? So we saw like there are 24 elements, right? As we saw, 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 4, right? If you remember. And then we saw the Mahat Tattva. Then we saw Lord Krishna's expansions as Vasudev, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, and Pradyuman. Yeah, if you remember, like everyone was honor of Man, Ahankar, Buddhi, like that. Then we saw the Virat Roop. And the last thing we were reading was the Virat Roop, right? In the egg-shaped Virat Swarup, which has the whole universe within it. Virat Swarup is the extension of Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, and all the planets. So just imagine like we are all residing within one big Virat Swarup of Lord Vishnu. Yeah. And so that has 14 planets, as we already know that 14 planets, right? Earth is the 7th planet. Yeah. And Hare Krishna Soham.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna Sumit. So 14 planets, right? And then we saw how all the elements came in existence. All the Gyanendriyas came in existence. And all the Swamis of all those, right? The deities, the Devatas, demigods who own those, right? Like the eyes are by the sun god. And like that, you know, we saw all different Vayudev owning the tongue and things like that. So that was all the fundamentals of material nature, which Kapil Muni was explaining. Yeah. So now today we are going to start chapter 27. Yeah. And as you know, there are 12 books in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. There are 12 cantos, as you can see on the screen. And we completed creation, the canto 1, and which was really beautiful. If you remember, like Kunti Stuti, we did the Bhisma Stuti, right? And when Lord Krishna goes back to Dwarika, you know, and there's so many great episodes and great stutis which we went through. And then, of course, we saw the cosmic manifestation, like how, again, what we are reading now from Kapil Muni is the Sankhya Gyan. Yeah. And that time we saw the cosmic manifestation, which Lord Brahmaji was explaining to Narad Muni. which Brahmaji heard from Lord Vishnu, and then he explained how the whole Karnodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and then how everything takes place, right? And now we are reading about the status quo. In status quo, if you remember, Mahatma Vidur has reached to Ganga Tat, and who is reciting this to Mahatma Vidur? Do you remember?
Maitreya Muni.
Maitreya Muni. Thank you, Nisha. Even I was thinking. So Maitreya Muni, if you remember, and Maitreya Muni, there is a story of Maitreya Muni. Maitreya Muni heard the Srimad Bhagavatam and the whole episode directly from Lord Krishna. Like if you remember, right, the Uddhavji, when Lord Krishna was leaving this world, like going back to his abode, Uddhavji was very upset, and then he was leaving and he was going behind Lord Krishna, and then Lord Krishna stopped and he was talking to Uddhavji, and that's when Maitreya Muni came over, and he was also listening to the whole knowledge which was being given by Lord Shri Krishna to Uddhavji, right? And then of course Vidur Mahatma meets Uddhavji at Yamuna Tat, and then Uddhavji advises Vidur Mahatma to go to Ganga Tat, where Maitreya Muni is residing, and Maitreya Muni is then Mahatma Vidur is asking all these questions and Maitreya Muni is responding. And so currently he's talking about the Kapil Muni, who is avatar of Lord Vishnu. Yeah. And the 12 cantos, and how many shloks are there total?
18,000.
18,000 shloks. Yeah. Like in Bhagavad Gita, there are 700 shloks. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Katha about Bhagwan himself, 18,000 shloks. And if you remember, how many chapters are there? So around 332 chapters total in 12 cantos. Yeah. So slowly we'll get there. We are on the canto 3 status quo. And so we'll start with the chapter 27, which is understanding material nature, right? So we saw fundamental principles first, and now we are understanding the material nature and the consciousness. At the end, what was explained was the most important thing is the Virat Swarup. It woke up when the consciousness came in existence. Otherwise, all the demigods and all the other elements came in presence, but the Virat Swarup will not wake up unless the consciousness came up. So we'll start with the shlok first. Anilji.
जी हाँ श्री भगवान उवाच प्रकृतिस्थो अपि पुरुषो नाज्यते प्राकृतिर्गुणः अविकाराद् कर्तृत्वानि निर्गुणात्वात् जलार्कवत्. The personality of Godhead, Kapil, continued. When the living entity is thus unaffected by the modes of material nature, because he is unchanging and does not claim proprietorship, he remains apart from the reaction of the modes, although abiding in a material body, just as the sun remains aloof from its reflection on water. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So Kapil Muni is saying that a living entity like us, we are of course influenced by the modes of material nature. But when our consciousness is in the Krishna consciousness, devotional service, then what happens is we get rid of the ahankar. We don't claim any proprietorship on any of the things because we don't own anything. And then everything is dedicated to Lord Krishna. And in that case, what happens? Yeah, it says here, avikar, akrita, and nirguna. Yeah. Then what happens is he remains apart from the reactions of the modes. Then this law of karma, action, reaction is not affected to him, even though he may be residing in a material body, doing everything, but then he is not impacted by the action and reaction. And the example given here is like the sun. You can see the reflection in water, but the sun is not impacted by that reflection. And it was a nice purport, so we are going to read that.
In the previous chapter, Lord Kapil Dev has included the that simply by beginning the discharge of devotional service, one can attain detachment and transcendental knowledge for understanding the science of God. Here the same principle is confirmed. A person who is detached from the modes of material nature remains just like the sun reflected on water. When the sun is reflected on water, the movement of the water or the coolness or unsteadiness of the water cannot affect the sun. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So simply by discharge of devotional service. And how do we do the devotional service? What are the different ways?
By chanting,
Shravanam, Kirtanam.
Shravanam, Kirtanam, right? There are 9 ways which have been mentioned in our Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, like Shravanam, Kirtanam, and servicing to the deities, doing the pranam and so many things, right? And going and doing the service. So all that. And so important thing which we are doing is we start with the chanting, right? And then we also are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, reading about Srimad Bhagavatam, Shravanam, and then also doing the chanting, right? So those are the ways of doing the devotional service. And that slowly and slowly gives us the transcendental knowledge. So let's continue to read. Munmun. Munmun.
Today I'm driving. We'll be home in 2 minutes.
No
Yeah.
worries. That's fine. Yeah. Sachin.
Similarly, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah, Bhagavad Gita 1.2.7, where when one engages fully in the activities of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, he becomes just like the sun reflected on water. Although a devotee appears to be in the material world, actually he is in the transcendental world. As a reflection of the sun appears to be on the water, but is many million miles away from the water. So one engaged in the Bhakti Yoga process is nirguna or unaffected by the qualities of material nature. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah? So nicely explained here. And actually, again, another very nice part here, Tarun.
As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, liberation means reinstatement in one's original position. The original position is one of rendering service to the Lord, Bhakti Yojana Bhaktya. When one becomes detached from material attraction and engages fully in devotional service, that is changelessness. Akartratvat means not doing anything for sense gratification. When one does something at his own risk, there is a sense of proprietorship and therefore a reaction. But when one does everything for Krishna, there is no proprietorship over the activities. By changelessness and by not claiming the proprietorship of activities, one can immediately situate himself in the transcendental position in which one is not touched by the modes of material nature, just as the reflection of the sun is unaffected by the water. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So nicely it's explaining that how can you really get rid of the reactions of the karma, right? Whether it's good karma or bad karma, it doesn't matter. As long as you are doing karma, even you are doing great karmas, doing a lot of donation and a lot of charity and all that, but you are doing it as a proprietor, that means you are doing good karmas, you'll get good reaction, but you still have the reactions. So it's really, if you want to be in the transcendental position, you want to go back to the Godhead, then you need to get rid of the karma, and it's not easy to get rid of the karma. So the best thing which is being mentioned here is to devote, you give all the things which you are doing is in the name of Lord Krishna, right? Everything is being done for him. You are not doing anything, then you don't get the reaction, and then that's the real transcendental position one can be situated in, is what is being mentioned here. Okay, Anisha.
ta esha yarhi prakruter guneshva vibhishajate aham kriya vibhudatma kartasmitya vimanyate. When the soul is under the spell of material nature and false ego, identifying his body as the self, he becomes absorbed in material activities, and by the influence of false ego, he thinks that he is the proprietor of everything. Hare Krishna.
That's what we think, right? We think whatever we own, we are owning all that. And most of the people think ahankar, it's a body itself, right? So then what happens is prakriti gune. So in that case, becomes absorbed in the material activities with the false ego. Again, it's a very good purport. So let's read this, Neetu.
Actually, the conditioned soul is forced to act under the pressure of the modes of material nature. The living entity has no independence. When he is under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is free, but when under the impression that he is satisfying his senses, he engages in sense gratificatory activities. He is actually under the spell of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Prakriti Kriyamanim, one acts according to the particular modes of nature he has acquired. Guna refers to the quality of nature. He is under the quality of nature, but he falsely thinks that he is the proprietor. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So, Ajay?
This false sense of proprietorship can be avoided simply by engaging oneself in devotional service under the direction of the Supreme Lord or his bona fide representative. Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita was trying to accept for himself the responsibility for killing his grandfather and teacher in the fight, but he became freed from that proprietorship of action when he acted under the direction of Krishna. He fought, but he was actually freed from the reactions of fighting. Although in the beginning, when he was non-violent, unwilling to fight, the entire responsibility was upon him. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So,
That is difference between liberation and conditioning. A conditioned soul may be very good and act in a mode of goodness, but still he is conditioned under the spell of material nature. A devotee, however, acts completely under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Thus, his actions may not appear to be of a very high quality to the common man, but the devotee has no responsibility. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So basically, it's explained how can you be situated in the transcendental mode, right? And not really in the materialistic mode. Jyoti?
Tena samsara pada vimavasho vyatya nirvrutaha prasagni kaihi karmadoshaihi sada sanmishrayo nishu. The conditioned soul therefore transmigrates into different species of life, higher and lower, because of his association with the modes of material nature. Unless he is relieved of material activities, he has to accept this position because of his faulty work. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So basically, as we know, based on the karma and the modes of material nature, like depending on how much we are situated in tamogun or rajogun or satogun, right? All that we transmigrate into different species of life. Yeah, it says sansara padavim, sure, right? And this all karma doshe. So basically, that's what happens. But if we, and so if we are not relieved of the material activities, we are accepting the faulty position. Basically, is what is being mentioned here. Yeah. Sumit, will you read?
अर्थः हव्राध्यमानेऽपि संसारात्रिणे निवृत्तते ध्यायातो विषयानस्य स्वप्रेरणार्थो गमो यतः. Actually, a living entity is transcendental to material existence, but because of his mentality of lording it over material nature, his material existential condition does not cease. And just as in dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So all because of Vishyanasya. Vishay. Yeah. The
Wish.
material.
Yeah.
And Soham.
There are an unlimited number of living entities, and our resources are limited. Therefore, we cannot be any real benefit to the people in general. The best service to the people in general is to awaken them to Krishna consciousness, so that they may know that the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend in Krishna. Then this illusory dream of lording it over material nature will vanish. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Soham. So, very important aspect is being mentioned in those just couple of lines is that what is the best service? And, we'll see like there are a lot of arguments. We go and, why do we need to go to the temple? Why can't we just feed the poor, right? Why can't we just donate to the charity? Why do we need to do the whole devotional service, right? We'll hear it all the time. But even if we sponsor some food or some prasadam somewhere, right, it's basically feeding somebody once, right? And then again, you have to sponsor, right? So it's really, I don't know how much a charity and all that can be helpful. And when there are 7 billion people, what can be done, right? And then it said that that is also good, that's satogun, and you are going to get the result of those good karmas. Yeah. But the whole goal is, can you be situated in a transcendental mode, right? And to be in the transcendental mode, you got to be situated in Krishna consciousness, in the devotional service. And the best service which you can really do to the people is to really awaken them to Krishna consciousness. So if your spiritual power is awakened, if your Krishna consciousness is awakened, your intelligence will become better. You will still yourself get the knowledge, and the sufferings can be absorbed and minimized and managed, is what is being mentioned, rather than, we think, okay, let's help this person or that person or all that, which is all good, right? But really, what is the goal of human life is what is being mentioned here. There are unlimited number of living entities, but the resources are limited, right? So the best service is to awaken them to Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So we ourselves need to get engaged in Krishna consciousness and then help other people, focus their consciousness on the Krishna, on Supreme Lord Krishna. Yeah. Ajay?
Sure. अतएव शनैः श्रुतिं प्रसक्त मसतन्ता पथे भक्ति योगेन त्रिवेण विरक्त्या च नयेद्वशम्. It is the duty of very conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness, which is now attached to the material enjoyment, in very serious devotional service with detachment. Thus his mind and consciousness will be under full control. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Again, same. Bhakti yogena trivena viraktana viraktacha nayet vashyam. So that is when the mind and consciousness can be under full control if you are doing the devotional service. Otherwise, it's very difficult to manage the mind and intelligence and all that, right? So again, great purport. When you get a chance, read the full one. But there are a lot of nice things mentioned here. Nisha?
As soon as one engages in such serious devotional service of the Lord, naturally the propensity of falsely claim lordship over material nature disappears. That detachment is called vairagya. Instead of being absorbed in so-called material lordship, one engages in Krishna consciousness, that is control of consciousness. The yoga process necessitates controlling the sense. Yoga indriya samayamaha. Since the senses are always active, their activities should be engaged in devotional service. one cannot stop their activities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's the saying, like it's our nature, right? It's nature of the senses. They are not going to sit quiet. They have to be always active. So how do you make sure you get out of the karma is to keep them active in the devotional service, is what is being mentioned here. Tarun?
If one wants to artificially stop the activities of the senses, his attempt will be a failure. Even the great yogi Vishwamitra, who was trying to control his senses by the yoga process, fell victim to the beauty of Menka. There are many such instances. Unless one's mind and consciousness are fully engaged in devotional service, there's always the opportunity for the mind to become occupied with desires for sense gratification. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So,
One particular point mentioned in this verse is very significant. It is said here, Prasakatam Asatam Pati, the mind is attracted by asat, the temporary material existence. Because we have been associated with material nature since time immemorial, we have become accustomed to attachment to this temporary material nature. The mind has to be fixed at the eternal lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. SatsangHareKrishna RadheGovind. One has to fix the mind at the lotus feet of the Krishna, then keeping will ever be nice. Thus, the seriousness of Bhakti Yoga stressed in the verse. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, sir. Sachin?
Yamadhi Biryoga Pather Bhyasan Shraddha Yanvintah Mayi Bhavena Satyena Matkatha Shravanena Cha. One has to become faithful by practicing and controlling the process of the yoga system, and must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So he says, Mayi Bhavena Satyena Mat Katha Sravanena Cha. We just spoke about it, right? Devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. Who is saying this? Who is me?
Krishna.
Who is saying this right now? Who is speaking about the transcendental knowledge? Sankhya Gyan, right?
Kapil Muni.
Kapil Muni, right? So Kapil Muni is saying, chanting and hearing about me. Why saying that? Because Kapil Muni is none other than avatar of Lord Vishnu. Yeah. So Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, so he's avatar, so he knows what he's saying. So he's saying the unalloyed, so he himself is saying this, that unalloyed devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. Yeah, Mat Katha Sravanena Cha is what is being mentioned by Kapil Muni. So actually we are going to pause here. We have 4 more minutes. So one thing is, I think we'll have to take a break again for a couple of weeks because I'm flying to India tomorrow. So for 2 weeks, and then we'll be back. I thought maybe we can continue from India, but I don't think that'll be possible. So attending a wedding and all that, so it's going to be tough. So, we'll take a break for 2 weeks. Yeah. And then I'll send the note again. And anyway, it's Thursday, so you enjoy your long weekend. And, you can cherish the recordings we have, maybe, or catch up if you miss certain things. But then we'll see you back in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Jindra, offer an exam of 2 weeks. Everybody will catch up.
Yes, actually, that's true. I know. I was thinking maybe we should talk about the last 4 chapters and then give some questionnaires. I know I could have done that actually, but I have to start packing tonight. So
No.
I want to
Just
start.
relax, enjoy your trip.
I know. So, we'll take a break, but then of course we'll continue. We have a long way to go, but we'll get there slowly and slowly. Right? And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and, enjoying reading Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna. So we'll hear continued from Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is Guru of Swami Prabhupada. He wrote this Guru Parampara. Yeah, because the Guru Parampara has to be there if you are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. It has to come from the topmost source. So who is the topmost source? That's the Lord Sri Krishna. Yeah. And then in this Samudaya, it's coming from Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma to Narad Muni to Ved Vyasji and so on and so forth. To Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to Swami Prabhupada. So we'll just listen to his song and then enjoy a nice weekend and then we'll see you soon. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna nahe anya Rupanuga Jane Rajivana. Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna nahe anya Rupanuga Jane Rajivana. Vishwambara Priyakara Shri Swarupa Damodara Shri Goswami Rupa Sanatana. Vishwambara Priyakara Shri Swarupa Damodara Shri Goswami Rupa Sanatana. Rupa Priya Mahajana Jiva Raghunatahana Tara Priya Kavi Krishna Dasa. Rupa Priya Mahajana Jiva Raghunatahana Tara Priya Kavi Krishna Dasa. Krishna Dasa Priyavara Narottama Seva Para Jarapada Vishwanatha Asha. Krishna Dasa Priyavara Narottama Seva Para Jarapada Vishwanatha Asha. Vishwanatha Bhakta Sata Baladeva Jagannatha Tara Priya Shri Bhakti Vinoda. Vishwanatha Bhakta Sata Baladeva Jagannatha Tara Priya Shri Bhakti Vinoda. Mahabhagavata Bara Shri Gaura Kishora